If you've ever held a giant beetle, you'd know how strong they are. But are they strong enough to escape a Venus flytrap? Would it use its powerful legs to climb free, or are Venus flytraps strong enough to hold them back? Well, today we're testing 3 of the world's strongest bugs against the 5 most dangerous carnivorous plants in the grip game. The second event of the Flytrap games, where we're searching for the deadliest carnivorous plant. Our first bug is a fully grown locust. Their powerful back legs are stronger than iron, which they use to launch themselves away from predators and into the air, where they then fly up to 90 miles per day. But could these strong legs help it escape from one of the stickiest and slimiest carnivorous plants in the world, Patrick, the dewy pine? Last week, Patrick here only caught 3 flies and didn't even hold on to them, which is honestly pretty bad for a dewy pine. They genuinely do have some of the stickiest dew out of all carnivorous plants, but today he could earn a massive 5 points per bug if he is able to hold on to them for longer than anyone else. Yet, as it turns out, Patrick's sticky leaves are no match for the powerful legs of a locust. However, that doesn't mean we don't have something that could hold back locusts and even stronger bugs later on. But until then, we have a different sticky plant, and this one does something special that could help it catch bugs. You see, the king sundew is the biggest sundew in the world, and if you didn't know it, not only are these long leaves covered in extremely sticky dew, but if they catch a bug, it starts to curl around it and then suffocates it while digesting it alive, just like an octopus does when it catches its prey. Yet, that's only if the bug sits still for long enough. And the thing about locusts is that they're always ready to jump away. Now, although these sticky plants haven't done too well with this locust, that doesn't mean they won't have their chance later on when we get to some of the calmer bugs. But until then, we finally have a plant that might actually catch this locust, Darling, the cobra lily. Now, just so we're on the same page here, I'm making sure these bugs are properly caught by the traps, as this is a strength test. Once they're caught, the bugs can then use whatever special tactics they have to escape, which we will see more of after the cobra lily. Now, this is because today's event is not an attraction test. That will come in the next few weeks, so make sure to subscribe for that one. However, the thing about a locust this big is that it can't really fit inside of Darling's tube here, which means it's constantly half caught. And although the locust did stay here for the full 30 minutes, I'm not sure how to count this one when we update the leaderboard. So let me know what you guys think. For now, I'll count it as a catch, but we have some much more exciting catches with the locust coming up, especially when we see some of the tactics it can use to escape. You see, locusts are banned for one major reason. They love eating plants. Not only have they destroyed our Venus flytraps in the past, but they could easily do it to our pitcher plants too, especially because they always get chewed up by wasps. So, if the locust's powerful legs aren't strong enough to help it escape from our next 2 plants, their powerful jaws might be their best way out. That is, if the plant lets them survive for long enough to even try it. But as it turns out, this specific pitcher plant is tough enough to handle this locust. You see, all pitcher plants have waxy walls that make it extremely slippery and difficult for bugs to get a good grip. Perfect for catching bugs, but not so perfect if you are a giant locust that needs some space to jump out or to use its jaws to escape. And as it turns out, this slippery wall works so well that the locust only slides further down the pitcher, closer towards those stomach acids. Now, even though we finally have our first completely successful locust catch, some of the bugs coming up are better adapted to escape the plants than the plants are at holding them back. But the locust's final battle of the day has got to be one of my favorites. As we saw earlier, and in some of my other videos, the locusts always manage to escape or eat the flytraps. However, that's because they had an advantage. The flytraps we used were always big, but none of them were as big or powerful as DCXL is today, with its biggest and strongest possible summer growth. he completely clamps down on the Locust and doesn't give it even a millimeter to get its powerful legs or jaws into a better position. It's literally grabbed perfectly by the Flytrap, and for the first time on our channel, the Locust has no chance against the Flytraps. However, this is probably the easiest bug any of these plants will face today, because the moment our second bug came up, things started to fall apart. We all know that cockroaches are basically invincible. Almost nothing can kill them. But seeing as these plants are perfectly adapted to catching bugs, a cockroach shouldn't be an issue, right? Well, nothing can actually stick on to their wings.
Bro, what? Did he even get stuck?
And it didn't only happen to Patrick the dewy pine.
No chance.
I didn't think it would be possible, but the king sundew is even worse than Patrick.
No chance. Nope. It doesn't even get any slam on its back. That's how well adapted the roaches are to being slippery. That is insane.
And its ability to survive doesn't stop here. After 7 minutes, this guy managed to turn himself around and then climb out of the pitcher, backwards. And seeing as there was nothing going on out there, he jumped back in so that he could clean his antenna. However, I didn't know that he knew how to escape. So when I came back to make sure he was awake, we both got a fright.
Whoa! No ways.
At this point, I wasn't sure if even DCXL could hold this guy back. In fact, I gave him 3 chances just like I gave the king sundew. And as it turns out, the same thing that made the roach so slippery and difficult to hold onto back then is the same problem that DCXL has now. However, I think Darling has the best tactic to hold back something as insane as this roach. Not only do cobra lilies have long tubes like Sarah does, but they also have these windows in their heads. Now these windows make it super bright inside of here, which confuses bugs by making them think the way out is up, just like almost any other insect trap. So even if the roach does manage to get up the tube, it would never know that the escape hole is right below it. Now seeing as only one plant was able to hold back the roach, I wasn't so sure how our competitors would do with a giant beetle, the strongest bug in today's event. But as it turns out, things were much closer than I expected, especially with DCXL. You see, even while the Locust has strong legs and jaws, and while the roach has slippery wings, the beetle has all 3 of these and one simple trick that doctors hate. They are almost impossible to crush, which is why its battle with DCXL will be so interesting. However, even though the beetle can easily escape both sticky plants like the roach could, it still has the same issue with Darling. Even if it manages to climb up the tube, it won't know that it needs to go down to escape. And unlike the roach, the beetle can't actually use its strong legs with Sarah here, as they're so much shorter than the roaches were. However, Mr. Beetle's opportunity to show off his strength has finally arrived. As he walks into the trap, he touches the trigger hairs and surprisingly gets caught perfectly. Now, although he looks like he was about to immediately escape, he stopped fighting against DCXL and chose to hide for a little bit. But as we know, that's a really bad idea. As long as DCXL knows that there is something in his mouth, he will keep on squeezing tighter and tighter until he starts secreting his digestive acids. And although getting crushed like the Locust isn't something Mr. Beetle needs to worry about, he could still get covered in acid if he doesn't act soon enough. And if you didn't know, that happens when Flytraps completely seal their traps, like DCXL is doing right now. Yet, as if Mr. Beetle knows this, he starts moving. He manages to get his snout through the top of the trap to get a breath of fresh air, and this is when his battle to escape begins. He doesn't have anything to grab onto and pull himself free, but what he does have are incredibly strong legs that will work tirelessly to find even the tiniest amounts of grip on this slippery trap. And with his own slippery shell helping him out, he manages to squeeze his front paws out of the trap, where he now has enough grip to pull himself free. Watching bugs escape from a predator like DCXL is always incredible to see, but where does this put him on the leaderboard? We had a few impressive catches today, but remember, whoever held each bug for the longest amount of time won 5 points. Second longest won 4 points, all the way to 1 point for the shortest, and that's for each bug. Surprisingly, our worst performance today was actually Patrick with 6 points. That means that Darling has moved out of last place thanks to her tie with Sarah with 12 points today. Let me know which team you think will win the series and get that winner's feast in the comments below, and I'd really appreciate it if you consider subscribing. I'll see you guys in the next one.